Testing, 1, 2. So, very good afternoon, Council Chairperson, 34th NUSSU Council, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clovis, and today I'll be running for the position of NUSSU President. So, before we begin, let me just introduce a little bit about myself. I'm from a constituent club background. In fact, I'm from the School of Computing in the NUS Students Computing Club. It's my third year being elected into office, and it's a place where I learned many things, one of which is leadership, and the other is management. I was the director of sports in my first year, and I started out sports camp as well as managing IFG. I had hands-on to actually organize events and understanding the importance of working together and team dynamics. I ran as NUSSU rep in my second year, as well as I was also concurrently the project director for my orientation week. This was a leap of responsibility for me, in fact. From the start, I knew I wanted to do this. I see the importance of giving back to my faculty, and even as NUSSU rep. So I learned so many things from organizing that event, from actually the need for customized treatment to every member, and the essence of actually organizing a substantial sized camp. But more than that, the importance of actually positive relationship within the team that will result in the success of the organization and the success of the execution. I've learned so much throughout my years in NUS Students Computing Club. I made possibly some of my bestest and closest friends. It's only through that I found out how much representing them meant to me. It was only through that I see representing them different from actually doing my first year. Without a doubt, I ran for SOC's rep again. So indirectly, my time at NUS Students Computing Club has taught me a few things, which I can offer to NUSSU at this point in time. First of all, is to know who you're fighting for, to know what our stakes are, and to actually be attached to the union, attached to our cause. Secondly, is my version of leadership, which I'll go into depth a little later. So I'm currently the Director of Internal Relations and Alumni Relations at NUSSU EXCO. It's in my current job scope that I actually fully utilize my love for talking as well as making new friends. Also, I learned the essence of listening. With the help of Hengwi, I actually started the Council Digest, where everyone in the council would know the activities happening in and around campus. Also, I got to interact with some JCRC members, had little dialogue sessions with them. I went to Hong Kong for my council trip this year, earlier in February, and I met people I wouldn't have just met if I came to school, study, and went home. I've learned so much from the trip and the importance of something the Hong Kong people actually hold really dearly, a voice. Also, I was also on the panel of the NUSS NYC Young Changemakers Grant, as well as the Alumni Leaders Forum 2012 as a student panelist. It's in my current portfolio that I realized how important, how volatile, how sensitive relations are. You can take 3 years to build a relationship, but an hour to destroy everything. I so see the importance of looking things from different perspectives and not be so fixated on one point of view. Which is why I want to be an advocate of good relationships and interaction that exists beyond work. Also, to be slow to judge and quick to react. Camps are quite everything to me actually, and some of the other union activities that I take part in will actually be me helping out in REC and FIC last year, as well as Metric Fair this year. I was also in the union camp committee for 2 years, just to form that bridge, that little bit of continuity. I joined CAC's social camp, as Hao said, in 2011, where I got to meet new people, and I most definitely did. People with niche interests, people who are interested in singing, in dancing, and it was an eye-opener for me. I got to see the union from that perspective. I was also a participant in the last 2 SLC, where I got to interact with student leaders from all walks of life. For me, it was the first step to get to know the leaders and to bond. I see it as a good way to strengthen the union. So, why did I join NUSSU? I was from a faculty club background in my first year. When things don't go my way, I actually blame NUSSU. I actually, and quite rightly so, because I see them as a mother organization. But I saw things from a receiver's point of view. And I was rather ungrateful actually, initially. Well, I joined union camp, and that was a turning point for me. I was in the committee, and I saw the EXCO at work. It was there that I saw this bunch of students who are first of all still students, fighting, arguing, discussing, and actually doing things for people they do not even know. For me, it was them constantly trying to improve or make better the lives of students. I saw things then from a different perspective. We are actually a welfare-driven organization, student-centric first, a home more than a house. I learned so much, and my experience is really second to none. I often remind myself how much NUSSU meant to me, why would how every paper table, how every discussion would possibly change the lives of fellow NUS students, and even by that little bit, and that drives me, which is why I'm here today. It led me to sign the NUSSU nomination form a few weeks ago because I know what I was in for. I was more prepared for what I was in for, and I was ready to make the change. I was ready to know who I'm fighting for. I want to see a change. Well, not just be part of any change, but to spearhead and to inspire that change. I want my term as president, if I'm elected, to not only see a change in the union, a change in the perception of the union, but also a term that is memorable for all our stakeholders, the conclubs, the committees, the EXCO, student leaders, and our pool of volunteers, and on the peripheral, the officers that we work with, as well as the other societies. Which brings me to my vision for NUSSU this year, which is our NUSSU. Why our NUSSU, you may ask? First of all, it has a personal touch, it's relatable, and by extension, it emphasizes on the relationship with our members. I want a union we can call ours, a united union that has each other's back, especially the student leaders, a union which we all can rely on, one that is reliable and in times of uncertainty and dependable as well. And for one, operations to not clog up and not bottleneck that will actually hamper the workflow. I want a vibrant union bustling with life and activities, a union where presence can be felt throughout the campus via the empowerment of student leaders, also known as a council, to impact. I want a union that not just cares, but sincerely cares. I want to uphold dignity and equality of members of the union without regard to politics, race, or religion. And of course, a representative, inclusive, and credible institution to promote, safeguard, and uphold students' interests and welfare in NUS. My leadership styles, first of all, for me, it's always going to have the same end product. The union will still function with or without us. The difference is the process. And here are my 4 aspects of my leadership. First of all, I'll talk about motivation. This phrase explains that if you want to achieve something, you would need to be enthusiastic. And we all know we can't be enthusiastic and energized throughout our term, which is why my point is that we pick each other up to fan each other's play and find out the reasons why we actually want to do this. It's the same as finding your first love, to be cheesy. I'm a strong believer in appreciation and encouragement. Next is team building and team leadership. No man is an island, and no point in having one strong person and a weak team, which is why I believe the team is as fast as its slowest member. I want to instill the philosophy that we are all in this together, with the belief naturally synergy will rise from the council, synergy will rise from the union. And with that belief, I want the EXCO, and by extension the council, to bond and have a sense of belonging. A sense of belonging and a NUSSU we can identify with. Trust and reliance will naturally come. And I also believe that 4 heads are better than 1, and what more, we have more than 4 heads. And we have our aspect of expertise, our strong, we can actually share information which will definitely value add to the union. I will not let the situation go free fall if there be any problems, most definitely, and I know when to intervene and not be there to strangle everybody from the very onset. For me, next is communications. There are 3 layers of communication for me. It's within the EXCO, within the council, as well as within the union. Many a times we are too fixated on results and achievement that we forget the very people that make the organization tick. I believe in building relationships and maintaining ties. As for students at large, there should be bi-directional communication as well as updates for them so that they will know what's going on with the EXCO, what's going on with the union. Deconflicting to me is an art. Conflicts will always happen, but in whatever magnitude. It's how we salvage the situation that matters. It's important for us to be singing the same hymn and being on the same page. In saying that, to believe in the same vision for the union and not just to accept it, but to grab it and run with it. That said, more often than not, we tend to talk too much and listen too little. So my last point will be to listen first always. And take some time to actually listen and realize that there are actually benefits from that. Next is empowerment and self-leadership. For the EXCO, I would expect the cell heads to know what is best for their cells, to know what is best for the progress of their cells. And yes, I will recommend, but I won't dictate. And same goes for the directors and the other secretaries. For the council, to have self-set goals for the betterment and the well-being of the Con Club and the general student at large. For the union, avenues for students to plan and execute events for other fellow students. Students' interests will be very much appreciated and promoted. No one is perfect, and the only way to improve exponentially is actually to criticize yourself. Explore if things can be done better in which way, and to constantly seek to be better. Well, I believe in achieving efficiency, getting the results, and all 101 KPIs we can set for ourselves. But results is not everything. At the end of the day, we are the leaders of the union, and our thoughts should be with the hearts of people that voted us in. Therefore, I believe in doing the right things, effectiveness. Yes, I may achieve my results slightly later, but in the process, the relationship is not sour and maintained or if not improved. So to support my vision of our NUSSU, I have 6 pillars, which I will go into depth. But first of all, I'll just introduce each of it very briefly. First of all, it's strengthening the union, following which, sustaining the union, and then the welfare of the union, which is very important, as well as students' interests, going for connections and relations, and last but not the least, being operationally stable. Now I'll go slightly more in depth to each of the points. First of all, strengthening the union. I'll further enhance the triangle relationship between the EXCO and, as you can see, the NUSSU committees, which most of you already know, BISCOM, the RICH, PRU, so on and so forth. And of course, the constituent clubs, which are all an important aspect, especially in council. For me, work has been done in the 33rd EXCO to actually enhance the relationship, but I plan not to just leave it as it is, but to bring them even closer. For me, strengthening the union is cleaning your own backyard. It's ensuring that you are strong on the inside, to have the committees realign for their vision and mission. And for me, a united union is one, because I believe that unity is strength. And I want to see a more engaged council, rather than just coming for council meetings and raising our hands, voting, and even, for me, even collaborating to have such as meet the student session would be beneficial. Communications is very important, and so is building relationships. And for this aspect, I'll elaborate more in the connection section. Next, as I mentioned earlier, I want to see an increase in the engagement and the collaboration, as well as the greater involvement of the council. With the amount of expertise, with the amount of skills and leadership we have, it will be a waste actually not to collaborate and not to consolidate all our ideas. I want the stakeholders to be able to identify with the union in hopes that the bond will have a positive spillover effects to the MCs and to the general students at large. Every club has the pool of volunteers. I mean, we all have pool of volunteers that we fail to appreciate at times. And at the union level, there are also this group of students that volunteer at a time, and most of the time, getting nothing in return. I would want to recognize and appreciate this group of students to retain them, and this strengthens the union. Next, I'll talk about student life. I want a vibrant student life, one that emphasizes on everything else except study. If our student life can be vibrant on a consistent basis, we have done our jobs. For me, FOP and FOCC will be supported for social camps as well. I'll seek to improve events such as REC based on the AARs and all the reviews. IG, I see it as a healthy inter-faculty competition that creates a buzz around campus. Events that benefits the students at large will be supported. The Students' Lounge is currently under renovation, under revamping, and when it's done, I want it to be the center. I want the Student Lounge to be the center of, like, the core of the union. And for me, that enhances student vibrancy. As I mentioned before, sorry if I sound very repetitive, every individual in the council has his or her areas of expertise. And I would want to leverage on the council to pool our resources together. And we all know officers play a huge role in our everyday operation. And I want to strengthen the ties with the officers and also with our alumnus, as their expertise may one day come in handy. And I want to encourage cross-constituency interaction and students' interest garnering. Council funding is available, subjected to the interviews, to encourage students with ideas to start something that is beneficial to the union at large. I want the presence of NUSSU to be everywhere on campus, the role of the associate bodies, as well as the conclubs and committees. If students turn to us at their first resort, it will be a success for the union. I want students to see us as an organization that sincerely cares for them. In fact, we already do. But the students need to know from their point of view, to see it that way, for perceptions to change. I want us to be a union that fights for our members, to always put ourselves in the shoes of the person we are representing. Next, I'll talk about sustaining the union. I'll break it into two categories. First of all, the financial aspect and then the non-financial aspect. As you have already know, $8 goes to $8 or $24. You actually pay $24 for your school on your school fees for unit activities. $8 goes to your faculty clubs. The other $8 goes to your non-faculty clubs. The 4 non-faculty clubs. As the last $8 comes to EXCO for the EXCO and union level activities. Well, in the long run, for me, it's not going to be sufficient if we rely on this. The union has to innovate, and it has to constantly be on the ball in an effort to be self-sufficient. I would work with the financial cell to focus on enterprise as another method of income and enhancing the experience of Starbucks LYH as they are our partners. We do take a certain cut from their profits for our unit activities. And the importance of self-sufficiency, I cannot further emphasize on self-reliance. We do have strategic partners, which is DBS and Standard Chartered now, but they may not stay with us at the end of the day. They may still leave one day. And then in that situation, how then are we going to be sustainable? I want to be an organization that is transparent and credible, one that is accountable to all our union members. Well, the budget will not be just released on AGM alone, but perhaps maybe once or twice more each year. There will be no hidden agendas. For the next aspect, I'll talk about the non-financial aspect. I want a union that constantly evolves with time, one that is constantly identifiable and open to changes whenever deemed necessary. For example, this year the change made to REC, would competition still be relevant in today's society? As for the constitution, it has been revamped recently and subjected to the school's approval. The roles and responsibilities have been reworked, which is something that is positive. For the next part, if REC defines us, if REC defines the union, if REC defines the university, I use REC as an example, what should we do to sustain this tradition instead of perhaps removing it because it doesn't work? We should look at ways to not only remain relevant, but to also embrace our rich tradition. The EXCO will weigh the pros and cons and seek the opinions of the council in the event we need to amend any situation. Next, I'll talk about something very dear to most of the students, about welfare. And I'll talk about 6 aspects. First of all, focus, the academic welfare, the tangible welfare, the wellness and food, infrastructure and transport, as well as the macro issues. So let me go and dive into the focus of welfare. The focus of welfare should be centered on the general student population, the needy students, students with special needs, as well as international students. I see welfare as the cornerstone of the union. It's dynamic and ever-changing, and the needs evolve, and so must our approach to this situation. Next, active welfare versus passive welfare. Let me just explain these two terms a little. Passive welfare is unless a problem occurs, for example, crowding of the ISB, we will not need to do anything. We will want to strive to be in the best situation, the best state. For me, active welfare represents, for example, new initiatives, tangible welfare, which will go in long run. I'll dive into that a little later. Next is the perceived benefit versus the actual benefits. We should not be confused with welfare that we think is suitable for the students, but instead go to the grassroots level, go to the students and actually find out what they really want. Surveys is one thing, but we can go to them on a personal basis, and the welfare cell will be on the ball to achieve this aspect. Our resources need to be efficiently allocated and utilized, and even for manpower. As I mentioned earlier, we need to understand genuine student concerns with the help of the council, leveraging on the capabilities and the connections through the constituent clubs. I see welfare as welfare as fronting most of the union efforts. Next, academic welfare. We know course is not the most perfect system, and yes, we will seek advice and feedback to actually constantly update the relevant officers, the quality of teaching assistants and lecturers, students with special needs. What about our feedback channels? For me, the Union EXCO will be sitting on this thing called the Board of Undergraduate Studies meetings to raise issues, to constantly raise issues that are of concern and of relevance to certain faculties. Working with the relevant officers such as CDTL to follow up on feedback review at the end of each semester, and there are also plans to have mid-semester review as well. The union want to further emphasize that the university places high regard on such feedback. Next is tangible welfare. I'll talk about tangible welfare, an important aspect of welfare. I see tangible welfare as an indirect effect to increase the presence of the union on the whole. What I stand here to promise is that there will be an increase in the quantum of tangible welfare, and the efforts will continue, if not more. Welfare-backed collaborations, will happen between the EXCO and the welfare directors of each of the constituent clubs, and we seek to work closely with these constituent clubs. Students do appreciate the fact that they receive something actually tangible. Next, relevant taglines such as the free breakfast day that happened not too long ago. You can say something like they say that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and we all know that it's hard for you to grab given your 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. lectures. But worry not, NUSSU is here presenting the NUSSU breakfast day. It sounds cheesy, but it actually kind of makes sense, and it rings a bell with the students. We want to close the loop, not just eat an apple and forget about everything, but why the union is doing this. What are the reasons for rolling out such initiatives? And the NUSSU Welfare Committee will be heading this aspect. Next aspect of tangible, I'll split. Tangible welfare has actually 3 components. First of which is the freshman welfare, which you all may have seen this year, and some of you are year ones, receive the files and the stationaries. This is some aspect of tangible welfare for freshmen. Next is the exam welfare. The 24-hour operation will continue, and we will seek to work with relevant people to actually ensure that the library is open 24 hours and even the eateries. Next is semester welfare, where we have food discounts around campus at stipulated times of the semester. And hot welfare such as the free cone day, free apple day, and maybe in the future even free pen day. All this will stay and in fact further enhance. Next is the wellness and food. The union will continue to work with the University Dining Committee to seek to improve, to enhance, and to uphold the quality of food around campus. We have to be quick to react and to resolve situations if there arise any situations. This is what I aim to for all the EXCO and constituent club council members especially, to take the initiative to check on the quality of food and not just complain with the rest of the students, but to take the extra step to check on the wellness of the food. Also, we're interested to promote the general health and the mental wellness of all our students. Next is infrastructure and transport. I'll touch on accommodation prices first, have always been an issue for camps, especially for constituent clubs. So the EXCO and Council last year actually tabled a paper, and the consensus and resolution is actually to give a percentage discount on bulk bookings. The details can be found on the web. For me, booking of facilities as well. OSA has agreed to charge us at only 10% of the booking price if it's a one-off event, and if it's a rehearsal that happens every time, or if it's a training session, the fee will be waived. The union will constantly and consistently fight for the benefits of our stakeholders in this aspect, and having the thoughts and constantly fight for the benefits of our stakeholders and to have the thoughts and the welfare of the students we have on our minds. ISB is and will always be an issue, and it's still work in progress. The welfare team will be proactively seeking to work with the relevant officers to solve the ever-changing needs and problems. The EXCO will seek to come together to brainstorm for ideas and constantly come up with new initiatives such as the express service, whatnots you actually have to actually prevent the crowd from happening. What we need to know is that we can only alleviate the problem, and we will go all out to solve the problem, but we need to understand that it's impossible to eradicate such issues. Next is campus greening. The university places high priority for the campus to be green and to promote healthy living, which actually shows in the way they actually define what's more important than the other. The pedestrians is always the most important. So you see walkways being built, you see cyclists track, So next, I'll talk about the macro issues. So much about the micro issues and certain pertinent aspects of the welfare. Now I'll talk about the macro issues. On the macro point of view, the union has and will consistently engage with ministers and on policies at large, and the 33rd Council actually engaged the Minister of Education last year to raise certain issues such as competition, the overemphasis on results. Right now, we all know results are everything sometimes. Social mobility, the fee hike, who actually gets affected by this fee hike? Diversity integration, given the fact that there are more foreign students actually being included in our social circle, especially for faculties such as computing, engine, science, and the quality of education. The EXCO will open discussions with the Council to come up with new topics and discussions, not just for education, but other aspects as well. As some ideas we have bounced around, like for example, should all electives be CSCU just to encourage learning? There are pros and cons, but it's still under discussion. Next pillar, the fourth pillar, as you can see, is students' interest. In fact, not just students' interest, but to safeguard, to uphold, and to promote students' interest, to support students' interest at large, be it entrepreneurial interest, service interest, sporting interest, perhaps cultural activity interest, and even non-faculty clubs. I see non-faculty clubs as an interest group because you cannot force someone to actually go paint a home. You cannot force someone to come and sing at a concert because it's really students' interest. So the union will promote, will develop, and to help blossom these activities to the best of our abilities. As I believe in empowering students to organize and spearhead union events that interest them and that benefits the NUS students community at large. My focus will be on the notion, this is the emphasized part. My focus will be on the notion of for students by students, a for students by students union, so that students will have a stake and an identity in the union. What we're interested in is really this sense of identity. My next view on students' interests is something that I have my personal view on it. Is we're here representing the interests of the students that voted us in, who voted us in. We need to have the mentality that the weight of each student is actually on our shoulder, which leads me back to my point of a greater council involvement and engagement aided by the council chairperson. The next intangible aspect would be communications and connections. The idea at the end of the day should be that we want to build bridges and not barriers to improve relationships with all our stakeholders. I see this as a process I'm looking forward to change, not only to empower but to have a relationship with the council that goes beyond work. A place where we all can belong, and a union, as you can see, we can call ours. Our volunteers from committees and conclubs are actually our ambassadors, and are people who are NUSSU at their level. For example, the computing club is the NUSSU at the School of Computing, maybe BZ club is the NUSSU at the School of Business. So I want to change the mentality from a them versus us to we are all in this together. Outreach intensity is also another important aspect, and I want to collaborate with MCs to have discussions, to get to know them and to have discussions with them on issues before we actually embark on perhaps meeting the students in the future. I believe in the grassroots effect. The next part of communications and connections is that we want to ensure that students are in the loop and students know what the union is doing. For general students to know what the union is constantly up to, and by mediums such as feedback channels, feedback and also even Facebook, and something as simple as leaving a box at faculty to actually collect and harvest feedbacks. The communication cell, the incoming communication cell, is actually working hard to rebrand the union. Next, I want to meet the NUSSU committees on a regular basis to listen to them. Because from what I get from my feedback is that some of the committee members do not know the existence and what the council is. They do not know what the EXCO is. They do not know what NUSSU is. They do not know where they belong. So meeting them on a personal level would not only encourage such bi-directional communication, it will also encourage us to actually feed the information to them, the relevant people that are actually fighting at their level for the union. Also meeting the MCs from the 14th Constituent Club to discuss issues, be on a formal or informal setting. I see a need to create a bond, not only with the MCs, but to make a difference, not just in terms of results. Our members need to know that we are always available to them should they need us, be it in any capacity. For example, I mentioned just now conclubs, or even the CSC, the Tembusu CSC as well, and Angsana CSC as that's coming up. So next issue will be operational aspect. This cannot be ignored. For me, in every organization, there are two sides to a coin. You can't have relationship without operation. We can't have operations without relationship. One cannot exist without the other. Here are some problems that we may have. So what exactly are our assets? For example, I give you a very generic example, the NUSSU van. For example, is it an asset or is it a liability? How would we prioritize who uses the van? Would this priority cause unhappiness within our stakeholders? And is that worth it? So we need to rework certain issues, and I'll go into my solution a little later. Next is the relationship between officers and student bodies becoming a hindrance. For example, I hear from some faculties that they want to give out bursaries, but certain issues do clog up at the admin level. The cheerleading, the booking issue. Next is we do have a clerical officer that is actually working for us full time, but the problem is that she doesn't know what's happening in and around the union, which may be a problem in terms of operation and information dissemination. Next is the GB system and financial protocols, which I'm sure the FinSec nominee will go into depth a little later. Logistical issues. Who loan what? And should we buy a certain equipment, or is there a need for a consolidated log list? So we'll work in, these are some of the problems. The manpower issue at events. We all know that sometimes events require a certain amount of manpower, and we cannot get the amount of sets, especially for logistics, to always have a student's perspective, especially when dealing with officers. We all need to know what we're fighting for, the reason for the meeting, and our agenda. And a system in place to ensure that information is passed down and everyone to be in the know. For example, we can have a calendar that has things to do for today, and it can be assessed by the relevant people, especially the clerical officer, so that she will know what's going to happen today and perhaps be able to answer certain inquiries more positively. This aspect is a financial cell to do a holistic briefing for, because I know that the field protocols may be a bit tedious, which is why I raised this up, to be always ready for questions. Because during the course of the year, even though we do a certain briefing, during the course of the year, people will forget, and I expect, I hope that the fin cell will actually be able to be approachable and ready for questions, and I'm sure the fin cell nominee will go into this a little later. To have dialogues with officers in the event of dispute. For me, meeting OSA on like a normal basis, like, oh hi, this is what I do, and it doesn't work that way. For me, to try to solve disputes and potential disputes, to nip it at the bud, especially with the affected people. I want to not say enforce, but to encourage a 48 hours of reply, or as stated earlier in the emails, because sometimes a late reply will actually lead to us losing a potential sponsorship or even a venue loss. Okay, so 6 things I want to see by the end of my term. First of all, is when students have problems, they turn to us, be it at faculty club level or through feedback channels. I hope to see actually the union leaders as someone for them. Next one is to ensure our NUSSU committees are in line with the above intent, to remove redundancy and to bond them. Following which is to aid the conclave in whatever way the EXCO, in whatever way possible. The third point will be an emphasized tripartite relation, the triangle relation which I mentioned just now, and an increase in council engagement and involvement. With a strong council, I believe, comes a really strong union. Fourth, more tangible welfare will be rolled out. It's an avenue for students to feel the presence of NUSSU. Fifth, presence of the union to explode around campus. For clubs, for CSC, for committees to actually hold the flame of the union. And sixth, to see an increase in student-led activities, the whole for students by students notion. So sometimes we all feel that sometimes we are doing so much but get so little back. But I want to remind you that this is a job we've all signed up for. We are expected to give 100% and sometimes not even feel appreciated. Which is why I come up with the recognition system, which I will discuss quite closely with the communication cell, to have a board at every faculty to be dedicated to NUSSU, for half the board to have announcements, to have things that are coming up, and the other half to have, for example, if I'm at Arts and Social Sciences, to have the Arts EXCO, the council member, as well as the Union EXCO, so that students will know who they can approach. Because right now, students want to approach people, but they cannot. They do not know who to approach. So this way of recognition will actually be something positive. For me, I see it as a two-way thing. For students, they know who to approach, they'll know who to contact, they'll know who are the people that are in charge of their welfare. And for the leader's point of view, when you see your face there, you'll know, okay, this is an additional responsibility for me. I have to do something. I need to do something for the students. And last but not least, the appreciation of our leaders and volunteers. Currently, right now, an online CCA record system is being developed by OSA and the relevant officers, and the union EXCO will constantly work with them to ensure that when you take part in an activity, it can be verified straight away, so that there'll be like, you won't have a year 4 coming into a year 1 saying, oh, last 4 years ago I took part in something, can you verify? Because he can't possibly verify. So this is the structure. Okay, as you can see, for me, the president and vice president is the same. Just that due to structural issues, we just put it like that. And for me, everybody in this chart is the same. Everybody has the same stake. For me, everyone is here for the same reason, for the betterment of the students, to change something. And the reason why we have cell heads is not really for us to lord over the people that are under us, but for cell heads to understand that the reasons why they are there is because they have more responsibility. It's an additional responsibility. It's the same being an officer and being a man. Okay, so I'll just run through briefly. General Secretary will be heading the presidential cell. We have the Deputy Vice President, Director of Projects, Director of International Relations, and possibly the Director of Internal Alumni Relations. The Financial Secretary will be heading the Finance cell. We'll have the Deputy Finance Secretary, 2 of them in fact, Director of Marketing, Director of Enterprise, The communication secretary will be heading the communication cell, with the deputy communication secretary, 2 creative directors, and someone to be in charge of the volunteer network. This will be worked further. Assistant secretary to be heading the secretariat cell, leading the director of logistics as well as the director of services. Last but not least, for me is the most crucial person to the students is the students' welfare secretary. To have 2 deputy welfare secretaries and 5 welfare secretaries to be manning micro issues. So in conclusion, results are important to me. In fact, I want to inspire and lead an EXCO that changes things for the better. But we shouldn't be too fixated on the end result that we forget, so much so that we forget the people and the relations. People and the volunteers are actually our greatest assets. Well, yes, we look to streamline operations such that we aim for efficiency, and this will be further discussed by the respective and relevant nominees. What I'm saying is that I want a union that sincerely cares. I want a union that is approachable, a united union that has each other's back, and I also want it to be our NUSSU. I want this sense of identity. Well, this photo was shown by Yi Chen last year, where you see actually teamwork and everything, which is a good photo. It actually inspired me throughout this year. What we can see, this photo is actually 5 mice actually working together to get the cheese, right? So the cheese is their end goal, what they want to get. But there must be a reason why these 5 mice want to work together. You can't have suddenly 5 mice just standing on the thing. There must be reasons that the 5 mice want to work together. And imagine each of them just have results in their mind, and perhaps they'll find ways to get the cheese, but maybe not as good as this. My aim is the very essence of finding the ties that bind them together and discovering how these ties can actually bring the relationship to a next level. It's the relationship and the understanding that makes them actually want to work together, as you can see. And this to me is the relational aspect I'm really focusing so much on this year. For I know eventually we'll reach our end goal, our aim, and at the same time to be having a common identity. No point having big dreams and big plans when the perception of the union is already so weak. Maybe not all the students feel this way, but most of the students do not really identify and associate themselves with the union. So for me, it's to nip the problem at the bud and to be the change. I believe in the domino effect, where if we have the people currently here, perhaps the EXCO, the council, and the committees to actually have a common sort of consensus, a common idea, a common identity, I believe that it will domino effect to getting the results that we actually want at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, we set KPIs for ourselves, we set things we want to achieve at the end of the day for ourselves, and we are student leaders, we will want to work towards that. But I want the focus not to just be on that, but to be on the people that make everything work. So with that, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you.
USC. I think we're very heartened that you want to be more accountable to students. But yet the reality now is that there's even widespread apathy and indifference. I mean, even among the NUSSU Council, we're barely elected by majority of the electorate in our own conclaves. So, how will you propose concrete solutions to solving this problem? Do you see that the union is playing a greater role in the university, and not just by organizing events and by providing more welfare, but in the sense that would there be more representation on various university committees like the Senate or the Board of Undergraduate Studies, etc.?
Okay, thank you for your question. Okay, so let me address the issue in parts. Okay, so first of all, I agree that there's this general apathy amongst the students in NUS, and honestly speaking, we cannot force students to come and vote, to come and do this, to come and do that. But what we understand is the students who actually voted you in are the students that actually care about the situation. And perhaps one of the big issues that I have in mind is to really, like what you say, to be on board certain committees like you mentioned, like the Board of Undergraduate Studies. Yes, currently what's happening is that the Board of Undergraduate Studies is going through this change of leadership, and I'm sure that the Welfare Secretary, the incoming or perhaps the outgoing Welfare Secretary, will actually ask whether would they actually allow for greater involvement, which I see as a very it's an important thing, because sometimes issues that are relevant to engineering would not be relevant to people from USC, for example. So these are certain things I look forward to enhancing. And the next part of the question is, how do I want to go about, not just by events? Because right now what I believe in is that we are too events oriented. Yes, we achieve our goals, we have the best going on, we have camps going on, but that's not just everything. For what I believe in is really engagement with the students, to know to let the students know that yes, we are a group of students that really care for them. How we can do that is to perhaps have dialogues with them. At least for me, it's going to be a bombardment session, but at least the students know that we are transparent with them. Whatever we are saying, we have no hidden agendas. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Derek Lim from USC. To build on the question, so you mentioned you want to have more dialogue with the students, and in the presentation you also stated that you would like to communicate directly with the students, right? So while I do feel it is admirable to view your accountability to all the students, nevertheless there might be a bit of a conflict of the same hub operation that all the clubs and all the various clubs are doing, because we're actively trying to engage our members as well. We are also giving them lots of communication. So amid all of this, right, how will you decide to do it? How important do you think these communications are? How frequent do you think they should be? Like that?
Okay, for me, I believe that even if we call for let's say an engagement session, maybe we won't get like the full LT being filled, see. So what I aim to do is a two-tier thing. First of all is to engage the MC members, so that at least we know like who we're working with and what are we discussing. Because I don't see any good in actually coming together with the MC to discuss issues when we don't even know them. So we start with the MC members first to get to know them, get to see each other's perspective and points of views before we can come together and to be on the same page before we meet students. And about the questions about, even though we create avenues such as this to meet the students, maybe we don't get the full students, but what I feel is that someone needs to make the first step. For me, maybe we won't get a full LT, maybe just half the LT, but this half of the LT are the students that really want to voice their opinions, and we should not forget these students as well. Does that answer your question? Or you want to?
I guess one part specifically, you mentioned you wanted to communicate directly with the members, right? Does that entail like you want to email everyone, you want to send out some kind of, what kind of thing?
Emailing everyone can be one of the channels, but sometimes it gets irritating, you see.
Yeah.
So for me, is if the MCs of, for example, I just give USC since you are from USC, I guess if USC members believe in really fighting for the people from USC, naturally, not just be there to organize sports or to organize certain events. I believe that this cohesion will be spilled over to the students, and students will know. If you, for example, if you go around campus and just asking, for example, USC students, like, how's curriculum today? Is there any issues? Or is the food at Cinnamon bad? Or is the food at, something like that is just this soft skills touch. I believe that these little things that you can do, and if you can inspire your MC members to do this, I believe, right, that at the end of the day, the general student population will actually sense that these people actually are there, and then not just for their portfolios or for their resume, but there because they really care, and that will slowly, by word of mouth or by little means here and there, extend to the students at large.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Joyce.
Joyce, thanks. Okay, I have a few questions for you. Can you go back to your welfare slide?
Welfare slides.
Yeah.
Okay, which aspects?
Okay, this one.
Okay.
Okay, so there are 6 aspects you want to you're talking about. So if let's say you have to choose 3 to concentrate on, which 3 would it be?
Choose 3 to concentrate on. Well, okay, basically the focus is not really 6 aspects, but possibly like 5 aspects. The focus is just who are we dealing with. So for me, tangible welfare is important. The students need to feel the unit. Sometimes we can give them welfare plan and then, okay, thank you. Or maybe give them, we say we open, for example, Starbucks for 24 hours. They don't really feel what, if they get something from the union. For me, I feel tangible welfare should be an important aspect. Next is infrastructure and transport. I mean, the 3 I'm going to mention is not based on any ranking. Okay. Next is the infrastructure and transport. We all know the current problems that embark students. We go for class and then we get stuck at Cambridge. So we'll look at ways to actually have discussions to find out better routes, or for example to have I think what they proposed last year was the express service, which actually did help in the flow of transport. As you all know, we can never eradicate this problem. It's always there. We can have 20 new buses and it still happens. And in fact, 20 new buses will actually create the clogging up of the routes as well. So I mean, definitely we will actually balance certain issues. Next aspect is actually for me the macro issue and academic issue is very much similar. macro issues, if you're looking at things from a bigger picture, from, for example, meeting with the ministers to actually raise certain issues with them. For example, I think they had a transport fare sort of review with paper table, and I think they want to actually, the union actually wants to put a cap to a certain amount. So this for me, this aspect, it's you can see engagement with the ministers or people with policy makers who actually, how you say, resound with the students, because at least the students know that we are actually thinking about whatever that's, because we're also students first of all. So for us being there, we actually know what the students actually feel. For example, it's too expensive to travel from maybe Pasir Ris to Boon Lay, something like that. So for academic, well, see, I mean, all these are also important, but probably if you want to work towards this, probably for me it's the tangible and infrastructure aspect. And academic wise, it's important, especially if certain faculties have certain issues that are constantly bugging them. Yeah.
Okay, so you chose tangible, academic, and infrastructure. Okay,
Tangible,
let's say,
yeah.
not mentioning what the previous welfare has done, and not mentioning, not mentioning what they have done. How about what do you think like can be improved, and do you have any new initiatives about what they have done?
Okay, for the welfare aspect, let me just start with tangible welfare. Just what they have done is probably increase in the, actually to start tangible welfare. So what feedback I gather is actually students do not know, okay, they just take an apple and then they go, and then they take an ice cream cone and they go. There's no closing the loop. So what I do is not only to increase the quantum, not only to increase in the number of tangible welfare, but to have the closing of the loop, to actually let students know that, okay, the union does this because of certain issues, and you know, this for me ensures that at least the students will know what the union is doing on a bigger picture, not just giving us an apple, or not just giving us so what I say is, what I want to do is actually to have more welfare rolled out, especially for tangible aspect.
How about like more concrete plans?
For example?
It's okay if you don't have.
No, for me is this aspect would be discussed with the welfare sec, and I don't see a point for me to put like, you must do this, you must do that. For me, it's working with them, and I think sometimes leading a cell, you have ideas that are actually, you know, like crowdsourcing for ideas. You actually have eventually a better solution. But I understand your point of view to have concrete sort of thing. So for me, it's like maybe during exam period, maybe free pens day, for example, and tangible welfare for me, it's not just giving out welfare pack, but inside welfare pack to have things that are relatable to the students as well, not just random tomato sauce and everything. I'm just saying, because I know some faculties do receive that. Yeah. And let me go further. For the transport aspect, we'll constantly work together as an EXCO, as a council, to actually come up with, because we all know we're all from different faculties, and we all know where the clog actually happens, as in the clog or the route or the crowded or the crowd on the bus. What I feel is that since we all have different perspectives, coming together to have certain solutions to issues would actually be good. For me, it's what they did last year was to help and support the fact that they want to have express service, and this year could be maybe possible, because as you all know, the routes for the buses are actually defined by some professional bus route agency, but they are the ones sitting at the office and, you know, drawing the routes. For us, we are at the ground level, so for us it's a more bottom-up approach. For us to actually go out to the grounds and actually do, like, I think recently, a few weeks back, I think few of us actually sit at the bus stop to actually time the bus and see the crowd of the bus. I think these are certain things that we can do to continue this effort to actually improve the transport situation. So the academic welfare aspect, I know certain issues, like for example things that bug arts and social sciences, that maybe sometimes you can't even SU your GEM and SS if you are taking it from your own faculty, and these issues have constantly been raised, but and there are follow-ups for the issue, and we'll constantly still look at, because it's not going to be just one issue. Every SEM things do happen, and we'll constantly be on the ball to ensure that everyone gets, every aspect gets equal attention. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry. Okay, I have a question, but I'll just make a point of information here first. Actually, like what Clovis has rightly pointed out, my name is Rong Sing, and I'm the outgoing welfare sec, by the way. The bus routes are being planned together with external vendors by OEP, but they do ground study as well. To be fair to them, they also take the buses and they stay at bus stops to do ground surveys as well. So for that, I think we need to credit them as well. And for Clovis, just two questions. One or just one. You mentioned that you want to focus on tangible welfare earlier on.
Yeah.
Do you think tangible welfare is a need or want?
Okay, for me, tangible welfare is not a need. For me, it's an avenue for us to actually increase the presence of NUSSU. It's if we give them an apple or we don't give them an apple, their life will still go on. But if we give them an apple, they'll be like, oh, okay, NUSSU is giving us something. You know, something that creates. For me, need and want should not be themed under tangible welfare. Maybe for other aspects, maybe like I want aircon for every classroom. This is a need and want thing. But for tangible welfare, it's actually our outreach to the students, and for me, it's an important aspect as well. Thank you. Sia.
Before I go on, I just like to clarify, if you have any points of information, you can just raise your hand at an appropriate time. You do not have to wait for the chair's approval. Okay? Yeah, questions?
My name is Augustine, year 3, USP Arts. You mentioned that you want to put welfare at the forefront of the union, but noting that there's no welfare secretary that's stepping up, you know, how are you planning to resolve this situation? And if nobody eventually steps up, you know, what are you going to do with all your welfare initiatives?
Okay, so first and foremost, I agree with the fact that there's no welfare secretary, possibly because we all see the role as something that is too big a portfolio to handle, which actually did bug me for a while actually. In fact, welfare should be the most important aspect. It did bug me for a while, and I even had a good mind, possibly not to run for this position, but to do welfare instead. But I did ask myself, let me don't diverge about why I chose to run president first, but more like, right now the current plan is that in the event there is no welfare secretary, the two deputies will actually co-lead the cell until they actually decide on who the possible welfare secretary should be. And these plans will be, I work very closely, especially Rong Sing and Yu Xian has kindly volunteered their service, especially to the welfare cell at this point in time when there's no welfare secretary stepping up. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
But what if really no one wants to take up the position?
We will trash this thing out, and we'll ensure that someone does take up the position because it's an important aspect.
Sorry, just one last clarification.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is, do you have any specific plans to promote the position, or to try and co-opt people to?
Okay. One minute for information about co-opting. Co-option, you cannot co-opt a person for a constitution knowledge position. So, point
of information. Welfare's NUSSU constitutional position has to be elected via faculty and council. This is for transparency and accountability. So the student welfare secretary has to come from the current pool of EXCO elects. You can't just, just a point of information, you can't just call anybody in to be a student welfare secretary.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. Because you cannot co-opt, right? It needs to be elected. If nobody steps up for election and you don't have a welfare secretary, how are you going to run your welfare initiatives?
What I can assure you is that during our council sort of learning sessions, we will trash this thing out because it's an important aspect and perhaps one of the greater priorities. And to ensure that there will be a welfare sec, and a welfare sec, there will be a representative of the student body. In the event that after the first trashing session we still cannot get a welfare secretary, we'll constantly, I think what the people are afraid of is not being able to fulfill certain aspects. And I feel that for me it's not benchmarking yourself with the previous welfare secretary or anything like that. For me, it's if you have the heart to actually want to do it, you should do it. And then we'll promote it this way. It's not so much of getting your KPIs, but more of like having the heart of the students, especially for welfare secretary. This role, it's so intangible, the relations with the students. For that questions, I will keep you updated if there be any yeah.
Hi, I'm Marcus. I'm a recent arts graduate, and right now I'm actually talking on behalf of the Sherman now. Dear fellow members of the 34th Council, I seek your understanding that I have asked my trusted friend to help me read out this statement as I'm currently overseas, although I'm Skyping right now. I'm Sherman, the NUSSU EXCO rep from Political Association. As the NUSSU Constitution dictates that no voting by proxy will be allowed, I won't be able to exercise any of my voting power for this meeting. However, I hope to provide some of my personal opinions for the benefit of this council, especially after listening to speeches by both candidates.
Sorry.
If he has no question, then yeah, please refrain from commenting. Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, one
Does he have a question for the candidate?
At this point in time, I don't think there's any question for now. I'll ask him to revert.
We have to clarify with him first in that case. Thank you. Any other questions on the floor?
I am Denise from SPE. As the president, you kind of drive the direction of the council to achieve what you want. So how do you think your experience and management is able to help you achieve the 6 pillars and to even reach out to the student community?
Okay, for me, first and foremost, the important aspect is, like what I mentioned in my last slide, is we can have teamwork, different people just plonking themselves on the thing. For me, it's for the council to be able to have this sense of identity, to come into for council meeting and know that, okay, hey, there are these people that equally have equal workloads as me, who actually care for the student as much as me. This sense of identity will actually, for me, for lack of a better word, spill over to all our initiatives. And my direction this year is very much focused on the process, not so much of the end product. While KPIs are important, the process is even more important because these students are the ones that actually ensure that our KPIs are met, and if they are not even in our concerns, or they're not even well taken care of, or the perceptions are not even good, then it's something that is lacking, which is why I want to work towards achieving all these KPIs along the way, all these relationship issues along the way. For your question about, sorry, what's the second part?
Experience for
Okay.
you to be a president to lead the council.
Okay, so for me, I'm actually, I did orientation week for my faculty, and honestly, let me just be rather frank with y'all. SOC's orientation week has never been something that is very well supported by students and perhaps seniors as well. People see it as a camp that's boring. So for me, what I did was to encourage all my core members to be able to make the difference, to be able to be the change, and my relationship with them is not just on a project director and core member, it's really on a friendship basis. For me, I see that management skill as something that will work because we get the support from them, not by forcing them to follow our ways, but for me to actually encourage them and for them to see things from my point of view and myself from their point of view. So for me, this sort of working, it's really like what I mentioned, from a them versus us thing to we're all in this together kind of thing. So if everyone has the same idea, the same ideals for the union, I believe that this will go a lot further. And I mean, that's just one example. I started sports camp as associate director of sports. It has never happened before in my faculty. In fact, during my nomination speech, people did put me down and say that it will never happen. But I took this group of people. This group of people actually decided to join my committee, and I encouraged them because they do get picking off from their seniors as well. So for me, this encouragement actually helped us achieve a camp that is rather successful, and one that actually is now going on its third year. So for me, it's actually something that I see a great importance in. Not just saying that I want to achieve camps, I want to achieve proper IFG, but more like what I do with the people that I have and I work with. Yeah, thank you.
There are two parts of my question.
Okay.
So first of all is you focus more on process rather than product,
Yeah.
right? So in the sense of an event, does it still apply?
Okay, for me, as I mentioned earlier, the process is important and it will lead to the end product. Because at the end of the day, if our process are made right, if our process are ironed out properly, and if our relationships with our stakeholders are good and positive, naturally these people will be motivated to want to achieve a positive end product, positive results. And for me, if sometimes we are too fixated on the fact that we want to achieve this, we want to have that, we want to make sure that this cell has that, this cell has that, we forget that why are we doing it? We should be focusing on ensuring that the people who are actually going to achieve these things are in the right mind and are not feeling ticked off or feeling unhappy or anything. So for me, I believe in achieving and having KPI set, but it's not the sole focus. The focus should be fixated on understanding relevant parties will appreciate the fact that we are actually open for communication and greater understanding.
With regards to just now Sherman's comment, I'd like to clarify, it's actually okay to make comment, but because this is a Q&A session and we don't want to take up the time, so maybe you can make it at the end of it, alright? Yeah, so any questions from the floor?
Civil engineering. Okay, earlier you spoke about supporting faculty events. So may I know if NUSSU EXCO have any plans on how you'll be going about doing it?
Okay, so let me take off one first. Hang on. Okay, for faculty events, when I say supporting faculty events, I mean not just returning your engine EXCO reps to ensure that your manpower is filled, but for us to actually, if you need like support, for example, I mean publicity, if it's open to school-wide, most definitely we have channels for you all to leverage on to engage the wider audience. I give an example this year. CFA wanted to, okay, I just give you some background first. CFA and CAC were not the best of friends. Quite rightly so, because CAC is they're both arts fraternities and they are both interested in, the area of interest is arts. So what we did this year was not to ensure that they come together and work together and have an event that we actually publicized, and then CFA did some sort of a survey thing, and then they realized that it actually does work if we do publicize events for them. So something as, even though we say that some students do not read NUSSU emails, there are this untapped group of students that actually do scan through the emails and do actually take note of the things. So when I say promote and when I say support, I don't mean being there and being an organizing committee, but more of maybe not just advice seeking, but perhaps ways we can actually help each other to promote certain events. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Kenny from law school.
Hi.
So it's great to know that you have some plan with regards to welfare. But on top of the equation, maybe I'll add an additional factor. So the law faculty is actually located on Bukit Timah campus. It's already tough enough to cater to the students at Cambridge. So how are you going to cater to the students at BTC as well?
Okay, for me this year, what happened was that the NUSSU EXCO representative, which is Sherman, the little EXCO, and Aloysius, the co-opted member, which is also from Faculty of Law, they actually are proactive in ensuring that certain, for example, food issues are settled at law. And for me, these are the people, the law EXCO reps are the ones that actually are our point of contact. As much as we want a person to be Assistant Welfare Secretary BTC, we understand that sometimes we don't have a law representative. We can't have a person from web computing to be always there. So what we hope to achieve is, I'll be encouraging the law representative this year especially to be on the ball, to be at BTC, not just to make noise or anything, but make noise in the good sense, but to actually harvest issues that are pertinent to the law faculty. And I think for me, it's knowing them that's really important. And I understand your point of view and you're worried that it's actually far away from faculties, from the rest of the faculties. And certain issues that were happening last year was that actually some officers actually wanted to remove BTC, which the executive committee representatives and Aloysius actually fought against. Something as simple as that would actually, I'm sure, mean a lot to the Faculty of Law, and we'll continue to do that in the event where things crop up. Where I mentioned the passive aspect of that, the passive aspect of welfare. If things do happen, we'll work closely with the law representative and the student welfare secretary to actually maybe meet with the law MC to maybe understand certain things. Yeah.
Are there any concrete
plans for the welfare aspect?
In the near future?
For me, it all starts off with, I'm sure when you all take up office, there are certain things that that you already get from your predecessors, like certain issues. And for me, the first step will be meeting you guys, and understanding certain issues, and see how we can solve it, maybe on our level first before pushing it up the school admin level. Because I believe with working together, we can come up with plans that are not only concrete, but plans that are actually feasible and able to be done. Thank you. Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, sorry, just to add on to Clovis' point on the BTC, right? I think this information is kept within two people now because eventually the decision was to not abolish it, so it will still continue to run, and there wasn't any, although in this side the plan is to continue running it. also been giving research on it.
Back to the issue of again, back to the issue of apathy. So the thing is, what I'm thinking was that because the general population, other than the mere election of leaders into the council and into the MCs and the council, the thing is they are kind of left out. 95% of the time in engagements, especially with macro issues and other stuff and other school-wide or maybe within our faculty issues. So the thing is, because of that, it will just like back channel. They will be complaining on Facebook, all that. But we will be very slow in getting their opinion, in taking of their opinions and all that. And like no lah, they will just stay around the place. So is it possible if we can give them more direct involvement in dialogue processes with management, maybe 3 to 5, like what we're saying, grassroots, people from the ground, other than the leaders in the meeting, of course, and we can also like get like alternative viewpoints, not just from the perspective of the leader, but also from an ordinary union member, for example.
Thank you for your question. Okay, so which brings me back to my one of my aims this year, which is to have little dialogue sessions with the faculties. And I believe, like, for example, if we introduce, for example, we are talking about maybe faculty of law, for example, and then the law MC will be introducing what the law club does, and then by the extension, the union. So this session will actually create this sort of avenues and channels for students to actually raise issues. I mean, if you have issues that you want to raise, I'm sure if we open these channels up, students will come and raise issues. And for me, us taking down these things from their point of view would mean a lot if we actually do consolidate everything and have concrete plans for perhaps ministers at large. And on your aspect on apathy level, like what I mentioned earlier, it's very hard to force people to want to do things. So something as simple as, for example, for me, example last year, there was this certain someone from School of Computing that actually did a massive complaint on Facebook about certain things like car park price increase and everything. What I did was I copied the comment and I actually talked to the welfare secretary, for example, like how things can be done and solved. And in that situation, the welfare secretary did have a direct communication with that person. She actually had a proper response. So if all the EXCO reps and perhaps the council members actually do see these things around Facebook, I think Facebook is an awesome channel for us to gather such information. If we do see these things around, maybe do copy it and then perhaps feedback to the relevant people, and I'm sure the people will be more than happy to answer those misconceptions or maybe problems that are not answered. Yeah, hope that answers your.
Okay, and for the sitting in part with the, or like what would say, meeting with minister or something like that.
Oh.
Minister or that, maybe it will be a bit extreme, but if some of those ones, some like undergraduates can also sit in for the meeting with minister, that will be right.
Actually, I'm not very sure of who can sit in for the. You want probably raise a point.
The one that we had was a dialogue with a closed door dialogue. So that one usually we get people from the various universities come down together with some key people driving events or initiatives. But how we engage students is through other mediums. In fact, the ideas or the inputs that we bring up during this dialogue is all from the students. For instance, the one last year, it was done through the welfare survey, where we gathered inputs from about 8,000 students on this particular question, and we then segregate them into the different categories and present them to the minister. And if you're talking about, as in direct contact between the minister and students, right, we do have our PRMF that we organize by PA, where there can be direct interaction between students as well.
Excuse me, can I just cut in here? Please, I would like to urge everyone to not go into specifics for this Q&A session and focus on the candidate's questions, his goals.
So this is, we talked about the initiatives that the Clovis has done and how you plan to continue them. But if you are elected, what are 3 new things that you plan to do and you please rank them in terms of importance?
Okay, first of all would be to have a session with the 14 constituent clubs, to have a meeting with them, not just through emails or through SMSs, but personally coming down. If we can't have the full EXCO, perhaps the constitution position, to actually come down, to actually meet with the people in the con clubs and to get to know them. And for me, this getting to know them will actually enhance the discussions if we need to have, which brings me to my second point, meeting the students. For me, I'm a very strong advocate in what I call LT attacks. I believe in us meeting the students, in us having, like for example, a channel for students to actually interact with us, not just on an email blast basis, but for us to have bi-directional communication. For the third thing is, I want to mention earlier, tangible welfare to roll out. For example, I'm looking forward, if I'm elected, to have one ad hoc welfare, for example, a free something day, which I will discuss very closely with the welfare cell and the incoming welfare secretary to actually work towards to. So these are the 3 things that I want to kickstart. First of all, especially when we just elected, we're all still fresh. I think it's good time to not just meet and on like maybe EXCO meet 14 MCs together, more like personal touch. And sometimes it does take up some time, but sometimes even a half an hour meeting would actually be something more meaningful for them.
Is there anything else that is different from the data in the sense that your third point is having a free something?
Okay.
Sounds like that before.
Okay.
Anything new? Doesn't have to be an event or what, but it can be a structure or a manpower recruitment, etc.
Okay, let me think through that for a while. Okay, for me, like what you mentioned, maybe tangible welfare aspect, maybe the aspect is already done, right? What I further want to do is to emphasize on so much has been said for my first 2 points. My third point will be probably to see how the non-faculty clubs, maybe it doesn't affect the faculty club members, but to see how the non-faculty clubs can actually work together. For example, I just give some random examples, to have like little networks. For example, if CSC has an event which they need performances from, and then they can engage the CAC people. It's something as simple as that, but to have a network where we can just sit down and discuss issues like that. For example, PA has some representatives at certain constituencies and how they can actually work with CSC to have maybe the Kens Day, or for example at events like sporting events, to actually have the PA members, maybe if they have good relations and network with people, of ministers, to actually something as simple as being VIPs. I think it will mean a lot for the non-faculty clubs. And I sometimes I see non-faculty clubs as clubs that we often forget, as clubs that are usually left out, and I want to include them back in, especially for the union. So probably that would answer the third. Thank you. Wow. Hi.
Good plans for the union. May I just ask, where does the council come in here?
Okay.
Do you think that, what do you think our relationship would be like? And if let's just say for arts, because I'm from arts, if our students want something, but you would perhaps disagree in their point of view, because you represent the union, but we represent arts, how do you think you can realign us?
Okay, so for your first part of the question, how we can better engage, how to engage the council. For me, it's something that exists beyond work. For me, it's something if we feel something, for example, if we have a group that we are good friends with, so we want to meet that group of friends, there's always this thing that there's always this anticipation before the meeting, and I want to create, like what the council chair has mentioned just now, to create this environment in EXCO meetings, and not EXCO meetings, but for council meetings, so that when we come into this place, we do not know only our arts members, but perhaps people around. So something that I've shared with some faculties is something as simple as us running around campus together. It sounds really retarded, but for me it hits 2 points. 1 point, to bond the council, and second point, to increase the presence of union around campus. So for me, it's not really like what I can do for how the council can be engaged, but more on like little things that actually will lead to the council, like what I say, the process, to lead the council to believe they're here for a bigger thing, their bigger purpose, and at the end of the day, have their situation solved, especially with the faculty clubs. As for your second part of the question, what if there are clashes of interest? More often than not, the council representative, let me just bring you through certain issues. The EXCO representatives will definitely be a voice and representation for your faculty, and then if we want to have a big change or amendment, more often than not will be discussed at EXCO level before it will be disseminated to the council level for voting and stuff. So during that period of time, the debate will be an unbiased debate, most definitely, and a debate that will keep all students in mind. It doesn't matter if you're from arts or from business or from computing, but every student in mind, which is why we have the CQ meeting, to have everyone to have a common understanding, to have see things on a bigger picture. The EXCO meeting where the EXCO representative does and will mention certain issues, and before anything is passed, it will be thrown to the council for your point of view. And I'm sure that before council meetings, minutes and certain write-ups will be actually sent to you all for vetting. And if you have situations that probably is of a certain concern for certain faculties, I am very sure that we'll look towards that and see how we can better understand you all and vice versa. I don't want to say like, oh, no means no kind of thing. For me, it's not that working style. But more often than not, certain reasons need to happen for. There are certain reasons that and will actually stop us from doing certain things or maybe help us to do certain things. So I believe in that reasoning would be an understanding between student leaders, because it's usually something that makes sense. I mean, from what I gather from the past year.
Hi, I'm Kiat from NUSSU, president of CSE. So you mentioned in your slides that you'd like to involve the CSEs and residential colleges in your presentation. How would you plan to do it? What are your plans to engage the residential colleges?
Okay, thank you, Ming-Xiang, for your question. For me, it's, people did ask me before when I meet your committee before. They did ask me, why is there no NUSSU information booth at Tembusu? What I feel is that if everyone of our associate bodies, including Tembusu CSE, can identify with the union, you are actually the union at Tembusu CSE. And if our ideas are actually channeled to your, and then we are all on the same page, what I believe in is that it may sound idealistic, but what I believe in, if you make the first step, I believe that your CSE will be able to see things from our point of view. And I'm sure there are people from the EXCO that actually will meet your CSE in the near future to discuss certain issues, so that, like, for example, I mean, on that note, I did have a discussion with your CSE. I really understand certain issues, and what I see is that an increased involvement in not just the council representative but associate bodies like yourself as well, so that for example, policies at large will be even channeled to you. For example, if there is for example an increase in your accommodations, certain things need to be brought, maybe reasons why, and then first an understanding, and then for you all to be able to disseminate the information to your respective Tembusu yens. Yeah. Sorry.
Joshua CAC. You said earlier that you want to make NUSSU more visible to students. How do you have any concrete plans to make this happen?
Okay, so first and foremost, I did mention about the welfare aspect, where we not only roll out things but also have reasons for rolling out. And for me, I believe in each of the initiatives that we do roll out, there will be some sort of a ripple effect. If people say, okay, NUSSU, what's NUSSU? Then they probably like, okay, actually for me it's an indirect way to increase. I mentioned earlier in my slides, indirect way to increase the presence. That's one way. The other aspect is for example, at events, for example, CAC events, for me, some of the sub-clubs do not know what NUSSU is actually, which is why there needs to be some sort of understanding between everybody, and which is representative of CAC as well. And I give one random example I had last year actually, was I was on the panel for one of the discussions, and we did actually have an in-depth discussion of like, for example, CAC wanted some funding for certain events. For me, some people do not see it that way. For me, I believe in actually having this art scene in school, which is why I supported the event, even though I had no stake in CAC, and I only fought for them because they are our constituent clubs. I don't believe in drawing like, okay, CAC, you all settle your own self, but in ways we can actually help each other. And probably, and this will, if let's say for example, you all know, okay, maybe NUSSU did help you in this situation, probably people will be able to understand and get to know what the NUSSU is about. And presence, for example, I'm sure the communication cell will actually be working towards increasing like the NUSSU branding all around school, and it's something tangible that they're looking forward to, especially the boards I mentioned at each faculty. These are little things that actually lead up to a bigger sandcastle. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
CSC. So since we are now on council and non-fac club, I would like to know what's your take on the management of the council between the faculty club and the non-fac club? What are the differences or similarity that you think it should have? And also, do you intend to have the faculty club and the non-fac club to be more collaborative?
Okay, I will go from the back because I can remember very clearly the last question. So the needs and the requirements for the faculty clubs and non-faculty clubs are different. Non-faculty clubs are focused more on enhancing their projects and their interest areas, while faculty clubs are interested in the welfare of the students and academic issues. So one enhancement between these things, which I can think of in my head now, is the logistic aspect. I think what has been done this year to want to actually have a consolidated log list, so that, let's say if, for example, Arts and Social Sciences Club has a ladder they have in their possession, and for example, CSE needs a ladder and they do not have, and they're thinking where to buy. So if we do have the consolidated log list, we actually can just borrow, you see. So this is one of the small things that we can do to enhance the collaboration between the faculty and non-faculty clubs, because I believe there's this pool of resources that is untapped on, and sometimes without knowledge, we actually waste resources. So this is one of the examples. Another example, the second question was, I want to clarify the first question is something what the
management of the council between the faculty club and non-fac club.
Management of the council.
Do you think there should be a difference or?
No, for me is the 14 con clubs are and are partners of NUSSU, and everyone will be treated equally. There's no such thing as for me. I do not believe in giving one faculty. Not even for me computing. I don't believe in ensuring that computing gets more welfare than the other. For me, everyone has to say, if we need help and if you need your EXCO reps or if you need certain ways to promote certain events, everyone will be given the same platforms. But as for the van aspect, I cannot promise you who will get the van more than the other, because it's just this booking process which will be further clarified. Do you make a point of information?
I'd just like to make a point of clarification for the van booking itself. With regards to van booking, we usually give priority to our electorate itself, which is the con clubs and obviously EXCO and the committees. With regards to who gets the van first, it's usually a first come first serve thing, and that we will try to give it based on the need that the event that you actually have. For example, if you are actually collecting sponsorship items as compared to one event who actually requires it to maybe transfer something else, then we will think that it is possible for you to actually shift the date of the sponsorship item, because usually it is flexible as compared to the event day itself. Which is why me personally as Director of Logistics, I will actually do the balancing act for you, and if not, I will actually try to get the two parties together to actually discuss how we can better utilize the van.
So that's for the first part of the question. So the second part of the question is.
Sorry, I didn't ask anything about the.
No, I give you an example. What I mentioned was a consolidated idea, and I gave the van as an example, but I said I couldn't promise anything. But some of the things that could be worked with the.
Actually, you already kind of answered my second part, where I asked should there be more collaborations between non-fac and fac.
Thank you.
System arts. Hi Clovis, do you think that EXCO reps should represent faculty interests?
Most definitely, EXCO reps should represent faculty interests. The faculties represent the other faculty representation. But more often than not, when we sit at EXCO level or at council level, we tend to have an unbiased approach. For example, we raise issues that maybe certain events happening, and then the arts representative feel that it's unfair. They'll raise issues, then we discuss and perhaps understand both points of view and perhaps come to a common consensus before it's rolled out or before it's implemented. So I believe that the EXCO representative should not only should actually be the mouthpiece of arts, especially EXCO level. Does that answer your question? Thank you.
Can you comment on the financial health of the EXCO for the past term, and what are your plans to achieve financial sustainability in the long run?
Okay, so financial health wise, we do have our strategic partners this year. We do have Starbucks coming in. We have the $8 from the students, and financial health for me is right now we are still able to go on with our activities, go on with our events. In the future, given I mentioned earlier in my slides, in the future if we do not have certain aspects, for example, So I was mentioning that I will work very closely with the financial cell to actually go on this aspect of enterprise, where I feel that we can be self-sustainable, and maybe for a start, it seems as if the returns is not as much as the sunk cost. But in the long run, if we do have a concerted effort as an EXCO, as a council, I believe that enterprise is a channel. It's somewhere. It's something that can be done to ensure financial sustainability in the near future.
Just a quick one, because you have touched on the income side. What about the way we have been spending our money? There has been comments, union level stuff that may be a bit too extravagant.
For example, like the union camp and everything.
Yeah,
So,
what are your plans? Do you intend to maybe cut or?
For me, the rationale for giving a certain amount, a certain quantum to a certain event has to come not only from the fact that, oh, why is this getting so much more than that, but at the end of the day, what will this event achieve? For me, I don't believe in just cutting the cost just because we need to cut the cost, or because certain people say we need to cut the cost, but more of like, for me, I give an example of the union camp thing, as we've just mentioned. I mean, let's just be very clean. Let's say 20k is given to union camp. Some people are actually unhappy with the fact that why is so much given to union camp when these people are not even part of the union yet. For me, it's an investment. Like what I mentioned to one of the questions on there. It's an investment to the union. If people see a good enough camp, people see a camp that represents a good representation of the union, at the end of the day, these are the group of people that actually would want to take part in union activities. I was in the comm this year, and I did go around asking questions, and then they did ask me what NUSSU is about, and they want to take part and they want to organize the union camp next year. So this is certain spillover effects. Maybe we will not see it on like a micro point of view, but something that I will encourage the EXCO and the council to see before we discuss on certain issues. Does that answer? Thank you.
Hi, Clovis.
Hello.
If there was only one thing that you could be remembered for as president, what would it be?
I want to be remembered for like graveyard thing. Okay. One thing I want to be remembered for would probably be the president that encouraged the change in perception of the union. Something that maybe you see as like a 2-year plan, maybe a 4-year plan, but I want to be one that starts something that is accountable to all our union members, and to be supportive of all, and to really bring, like what I mentioned earlier, the triangle relation, to all the three components closer to the core of my vision for the union. Thank you.
I think from CSC, can you name me 3 problems that you see regarding the current welfare initiative, and how can you improve this?
3 problems.
Yeah.
Okay, for one, I believe like first and foremost, I mentioned earlier the tangible welfare thing. I mean, I did speak the wrong thing before, and we actually have an agreement that we do not have a follow-up. So people just take it and it's like, for me, sometimes it's a waste of an investment. But if people do understand what it's there for, definitely it will be appreciated more. That's for the first part, the first thing. Second thing, welfare. I believe EXCO level and council level, we actually discuss certain welfare issues, which probably for me stopped at the council level. And what can be done was probably to bring it to the rest of the school, and maybe not just by email blast, but other channels such as via the conclubs to actually disseminate certain information. I think it's being done this year, but perhaps not fully utilized. That's the second thing about the welfare. And the last but not the least, hang on. For me, what I believe is that sometimes, for example, let's touch on the aspect of transport. Things are being done, but sometimes we do have surveys, we do have things and everything. We do raise our issues to the officers, but sometimes the end product, sometimes the result of all these things are not seen as soon as they are, as fast as we want them to be, and probably we can work towards that. I mean, I'm not promising you immediately the next day things will change, but perhaps faster. I mean, this year they have done it as best as they can already, but we will look at ways we can actually streamline that time frame. So that's the 3 things that I feel. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Derek Lim from USC. So, Clovis, I think so far I've taken many questions about concrete plans and priority items. I think this comes out of a sense of you feel a need for leadership. And as a representative of a constituent club, right, one area in which I feel like a strong need for leadership from NUSSU is with regard to policies or projects that affect, being NUSSU Reg and Flag, which is a project that's under NUSSU that represents a large resource investment in terms of finance, time, everything, and also has quite a relatively broad base of participation in relation to everything else. Okay, so my question is, what would NUSSU's agenda for Reg and Flag be in a situation where you are elected as president, right? And my question has three parts. Okay, the first part, with regard to something I mentioned in passing, what is your assessment of the sustainability, whether in terms of environmental, financial, or students' enthusiasm of REC?
Okay. First and foremost, I understand REC and Flag is an important aspect for every faculty. In fact, it's one of the biggest events around the campus in our academic calendar that involves not just one faculty, not just one club, but the whole of NUS. So one thing I will do for sure is, I was at the AAR and I did listen to certain points of it, and I will look at the minutes actually to see how we can further refine the meaning of REC and Flag.
So what is your assessment of its sustainability specifically?
Sustainability, okay. So as you all would already know, we did have a big REC the year before, and this year was a more simmered down one. So what I believe in is that if we are, honestly speaking, if we are putting more investment, this is just my point of view, but we are putting more investment on the float and collecting less from REC and from Flag, it actually defeats the purpose, you see. As in, if you look at it from a bigger picture, REC and Flag, what's the reasons for REC and Flag? It's actually for us to have a celebration of the giving. And if we actually spend too much money and to focus on competition, which I mentioned just now, we need to be constantly evolving with time. Should competition actually still be existing? Or what are the real meanings for REC and Flag? And on that aspect, for example, if we are spending too much money on the float itself, then it defeats the whole purpose of REC and Flag. It defeats the whole purpose of having this twin event that occurs almost one after the other. And that's for the REC and Flag aspect. I believe in. I think the second part of the question is the sustainability.
So that was
the first part. Okay.
And your evaluation of
Okay.
it is the first part. Okay, second part is in the light of there being like more universities around Singapore and everything, what is your take on the argument that REC and Flag serves to like distinguish NUS? Because during your presentation you mentioned stuff like the culture, the history, or it represents an ideological investment on the parts of all the faculty clubs. So what's your take on this argument that it serves to distinguish NUS?
For me, I hold very strongly to traditions, and this is something that we can proudly say after we graduate from NUS, that we are involved in REC in some way or another. And it's something that I want to hold very closely to myself and not just remove certain aspects. For example, the whole float thing, some things were being thrown around during the AR, like, why don't we just remove the float and have just the dance? But it defeats the whole purpose. It becomes a performance. For me, it's this whole process that creates this heritage, creates this tradition that we all hold quite closely to. And I would want to continue to see that happening around campus, especially since, during our quad uni meet, we actually have other unis asking us about how can they start REC and Flag, which is something that it's like Coca-Cola. We don't want to reveal our secret recipe kind of thing, but it's something that I want all of NUS, all the students of NUS to identify with, to believe in, and to be able to see like, okay, REC and Flag means something to me, and not just competition, but something on the bigger picture, something like, it's part of my learning at NUS.
So would you agree that there's some kind of tension with the first idea of sustainability?
Well, okay, for sustainability, I believe in spending less, but that spending less will not equate to lesser involvement or lesser experience throughout the process. Spending less, it's just an avenue for us to not waste too much resources of our faculties or whatsoever to create a fanciful float that will be destroyed the day after. So what I believe is in creating a sustainable, to have the float be not as expensive as look at bigger picture. If we receive like maybe $1,000 from Flag and we spend like $2,000 on the float, it doesn't make sense. But what I'm saying is that we should fine tune how much we spend, and not only that, but to actually realize that the experience that you gather, the experience should not change. It should not change that the dancers are preparing to dance the thing, the float driving in, and then all the fanciful things that happen. Because I don't see a cut in investment as a cut in the experience, and the experience is something that is our heritage.
Sorry, but before I can decide whether to ask the third part or not, I need to know your assessment for the first part. So do you think REC can be sustainable or not, given all these?
For me, REC it can be sustainable. It depends on the way we actually fine tune certain issues, and I think right now I didn't dive very much into the assessment of REC yet. I mean, given the fact that I've not been actually elected in or anything, but I'll look into this issue and probably work with the participating bodies to actually see how we can better fine tune this certain issue.
Okay, and the final part, the third part of the question, I mentioned there are three. Sorry, thank you. So if there is a refinement of this reg and flag policy, how will it be determined? I mean, in the case that you are president, right, will you decide to form a committee to study this? Will you try and get a vote or a referendum? I mean, how might you plan to refine this, and how will you determine the result?
Okay, currently this year there's a REC steering committee. It's headed by the deputy vice president. What she does is actually to make sure that the whole objective of REC is back on track, and basically all the operational issues as well. She has a committee with her, elected from the council, which actually discuss these issues. And I think it's good this year. We actually refine the way we actually grade certain events, for example the gold, silver and bronze thing. But what I feel now is that the track REC is going on right now, it's more or less to the original intent. But which is why I will not see a committee being elected in via the council to actually form this thing. But maybe if issues do happen, definitely at C-Cube level or during the later course of the year with the participating bodies, we will actually have constant discussions to actually fine-tune certain issues which may still be a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, before I go on, the time for Q&A has actually left. So at this juncture, is there any motion to extend?
No, propose to extend by 15 minutes.
Any seconders?
Joy Science.
Any objections? The motion is passed. Anybody has a question? Joyce.
Joy Science. Okay, two questions, one building on this. So, may I know your take on the banding system as well as the chancellorship?
Okay, for me, it's two separate things, right? Okay, first and foremost, the banding system. For me, it encourages healthy competition. Of course, more often than not, if I'm a participating body from, let's say, a not so strong faculty, I will give everything during my summer. I'll practice like anything during summer, but coming out of that, I get nothing. But I'll give a personal example. For School of Computing, they actually, every year they put in effort, but they come out like nothing, winning nothing or really receiving nothing. But this year, it was quite a celebrated thing that even if silver was the lowest band, we still got silver, and they were actually quite happy about it. And I think it affects, maybe, I mean, like any policies that the government make as well, there is no perfect scenario, but what I see this banding system as is it encourages healthy competition and not be too fixated on just being the winner. So at the end of the day, everyone's a winner. Okay, so for the aspect on account, the Chancellor's Shield, at the end of the day, whether the participating bodies see a need in the Chancellor's Shield will be further discussed. But what I view from this year is that it seems contradictory. See, we want to encourage healthy competition, and yet there's still a Chancellor's Shield. So we'll work with the PBs, the participating bodies, to actually discuss on the need for a Chancellor's Shield in the future, or if there is a need to actually revamp the grading and banding system.
Okay, my second question is, how do you define a successful term as the NUSSU president? What are your indicators of success?
Okay, first and foremost, it's when students have problems and they actually turn to us. I want it to be a more personal point of view. For example, I did raise some questions. I did speak to some faculties actually. And I told them, for example, if someone actually comes to you and say, oh, I have problems with certain issues in my faculty, and they email, for example, to Science Club, and what we can do is normally to reply an email, say this is what you can do, But maybe something like what I feel that can be changed, probably maybe taking 5 minutes of your time to probably meet them face to face and maybe understand them from a personal point of view. I'm not saying that we should all be doing that, but when students come and turn to us and we receive emails from them stating their problems, we actually, for me I feel happy receiving emails from students, because at least I know that they look at me as someone that can solve their problems. The second part will be to ensure that there's a remove of redundancy, to remove redundancy, and to aid con clubs, as I mentioned earlier, and through all the questions, as much way as possible. Emphasize on tripartite relations, like what I mentioned, the engagement of the council, the engagement of the committee and the EXCOs, and on the whole, hopefully it will spill over to the rest of the school. Sorry, not using the mic. For the fourth point, more tangible welfare to be rolled out. Like what maybe some of them mentioned, tangible welfare were rolled out last year, but maybe innovate more ideas with the help of the council, standing committees, and the incoming welfare secretary. Last of it, fifth one is the presence of the union to actually explore around campus. So for me, I want to see union, the NUSSU brand everywhere at SS.
How about like more measurable objectives?
For me, these are as measurable, but what I want to see happen concrete examples.
Yeah. Like
For me,
the
is
first three that comes to your mind.
Okay. Maybe I'll just answer it from a different perspective. I would love to create 100 KPIs for everybody to fulfill, but I don't believe in creating 100 KPIs and just fulfilling the 100 KPIs. I believe in working with the people in charge, especially since I do not have the time to really work with them as of yet due to the elections thing. I believe in working with the cell heads to actually come up. For me, I know they know what is best for the cell, and then perhaps when we actually communicate with them to actually have certain KPIs we can actually answer together, and not for me to enforce certain KPIs on them, because it seems a very communist, it seems a very one-way thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Civil engineering. Okay, as you know, the percentage of foreigners in NUS is quite high, and personally, I feel that many of the unions events and even conclave events are largely participated by locals. So how do you think that we can engage this large population of foreigners?
Okay, I understand your point of view from School of Computing, and it's the same thing in my faculty. Which is why I have the idea to actually co-opt the Director of International Relations there. He is currently the chairperson of NUSSU IRC. I see IRC as a mouthpiece for international students, and for me, the intention is not just to be the mouthpiece, but to have events that assimilate both the local and foreigners. And on the Fed Cup level, I believe our hope that this Director of International Relations to work with your International Relations Director to actually come up with events that perhaps trickle down events from maybe ideas from a union perspective to perhaps faculty clubs that actually face these issues. For example, engine, computing, science. So at the end of the day, we would not want to exclude them, because at the end of the day, they are still students of NUS. Yeah. So I hope that answers the question. Thank you. Oh, you have another part to your question?
There's another question.
Oh.
Okay, civil engineering. I think this is the most relevant question. So, can you distinguish yourself from the other presidential candidate, and what are the reasons why we should vote for you instead?
I do not. Okay, for me, we are both capable in our own ways, and for me, I like his idea of being goal-driven. I mean, I did talk to him a bit. I like the idea that he's goal-driven and he has objectives for everything that he wants to see happen. But for me, that don't happen when you don't have a proper perception of the union. It starts with nipping the thing at the bud. It's always the chicken and egg thing, which is more important. For me, I view the process is more important. If we are able to change, for example, the way things are being said and the perception of the union first and foremost, then we talk about how successful we want our events to be. Yeah, so this is my take, and probably which is different from, I do not know what his big plans are. I do not know what are the details of his plans, but this is what I can say, that perhaps our focus is slightly different and both have its merits, and I wouldn't say who is more capable than the other. In any way, I think both were value add to the union.
Hi Clovis.
Hello.
May I know what your plans are if, for instance, you're not elected as
Okay, for me, I'll be running as a welfare secretary. I see importance in welfare and welfare as a cornerstone of the union, and I believe that I can say so many things in my presentation for president, but in the event that I don't get elected, I'll run for welfare secretary, and I'm putting it very clearly because I see it was actually bothering me for quite a bit, but I know that I want to run for president, like what I mentioned earlier in my speech, not just because I want to be president, not just because I want to see a change, but to inspire a change and to actually have to actually introduce my way of management and hopefully at the end of the day we'll achieve a union that is completely different in our mentality. And as you all know, every matriculated student is a part of the union. I want to see, maybe 1 year is too short for this, but somewhere has to start, and I believe that it should start now. That like what I mentioned in the photo that Chen has last year, you can't have 5 mice randomly just stamping on the thing and eating the cheese. We need to find the tie that binds them together. And I believe that we should start finding the ties that bind them together from 34. Hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Sia and you, can you share with us what do you think is the relevance of NUSSU committees to the council and the constituent clubs?
Okay.
And secondly, how are you going to work with the NUSSU committees given your relative lack of experience with them?
Okay, I don't feel a lack of experience as something that I cannot overcome in the coming year. Like what I mentioned earlier, I'll meet the NUSSU committees. To the council, the NUSSU committees are this group of students that are actually fronting the union initiatives and our goals. For example, PRU to be the publicity wing, for example, BISCOM to be marketing, to be the enterprise wing. So IRC to be the international relations wing, commit to be the ones that actually encourage and to be the ones that actually educate the union members on certain issues, IT and services, especially for the computing centers as well, the CBLC's area at YH and library. I can go on SAFE to be the frontal, SAFE to be the committee that makes the union green. I can go on about. You want me to go on by one? No.
It's not so much on the specific.
Because you asked me to explain.
But rather the generic. What do you think is the relevance of?
Okay, for me they are important. Like what I spoke to Ita that time as well. I don't want to call them my arms and legs also because it's very like arms and legs. But for me it's I want to see them as people fronting, people that are actually on the grounds doing things that actually achieve our objectives as a union on the whole. As an EXCO, we set up for this year on the whole. For me, I see them as an important mechanism to actually help us in this process, especially since they are in charge of various areas of expertise. For example, I mentioned this now. For the second part of the question is.
You already answered.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Samuel from engineering. There's a lot of plans to heard from you, but in the case that you're not elected as president and you go for the welfare, do you think that in your capacity as a welfare secretary, will you still be pushing for those plans that is not welfare related?
The candidate would prefer not to answer that question.
It's not that I don't answer you, but I prefer to be focused on like my role as running for the president, not as welfare secretary. Thank you.
Timothy, USC. You mentioned just now that one of the major things you like to see, like after your term, if you're president, is a change in the perception.
Yeah.
So, would you agree that this change in perception needs to come from the university administration as well?
Actually, both yes and no. I think for me, I mean, we're talking about relations with the officers. For example, OSA. Sometimes they don't see things from our perspective, and vice versa. So, which is why I say there needs to be a dispute session with them if we have disputes with them. And the perception change, we should be the ones fronting the perception change. We should be the ones. We are all elected into office by all members of our faculties to be the ones that they trust and rely on. So we should be the ones that front the change. I mean, whatever the university admin thinks about us, we should be as a unit, a united union that actually says that okay, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to change. And by and large, we will have discussions with these officers and perhaps give our idea across.
So what do you think is the state of the relationship now?
For me, it's a working relationship. We do have our disagreements. I mean, it happens in all organizations, which is why I always say we need to know what we are fighting for. And if we are very clear that we want this and this happens for a certain benefit for certain students, we need to raise this up to the officers. And sometimes officers do have their vetoes, their reasons why they do not want to do certain things. So, but they are there on that level. You see, for me, we are on the level of the students. We are able to see things from a different perspective, which is why the dispute meetings will come in really handy if we have certain issues that were actually bugging. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Assistant FASS. Hi, Clovis, can you repeat Yu Qian's here as president?
Sorry, we will not entertain the question. Yeah.
But I can say something like nice actually. For me, is they were the ones that inspired the ones who actually wanted to retain, and they were the ones that actually did change the union, especially in the results area. We actually did see a lot more things, and we actually did see a lot more initiatives being rolled out. And for me, that thing will work better with the united union that I'm talking about, and I've been wanting to focus on the process. So in that aspect, I hope to not only continue the good work they're doing, but to further emphasize on certain aspects that I can change, which will lead to better results. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Sorry, I have to block, but because I gave the question just now for Ren Kai, so fair. Okay, I'll entertain one last question. Is there anyone else?
I asked the previous candidate the same question, so I just asked you. I think continuity is something that's very important. So I think you have put forth a lot of many welfare initiatives and policies. So which are the policies? And actually, I understand that our term of office is only a year, so there are things that we cannot see through. So which are the policies put forth by the 33rd Council and EXCO that you actually will wish to follow up?
One of which would be the fact that, okay, just let me a moment to think about. Okay, as we all know, we are very involved in the Board of Undergraduate Studies, and certain issues that, because of this healthy relationship with the Board of Undergraduate Studies, we actually are able to involve more people into the group, and we are able to raise issues and on not just a formal term, but as perhaps like certain issues that I want to raise. And because of this relationship with the board, things were able to be rolled out, and I want to further emphasize on that relation, especially with different boards and different committees around school. Yeah. Okay.
With that, can I just have a quick show of hands? Is there any other questions that are unanswered? Any candidate would still like to ask? A member? If not, can somebody propose the closing of the Q&A session?
Otherwise, just lock up.
Any seconders? Objections? Seeing none, Q&A session is officially ended. A round of applause to the volunteers.
You put a 1. Okay, just a clean stroke. This is not accepted. This is not accepted. Huh? So just follow the heading, do a clean stroke 1. If you are voting for Mr. Clovis, just a 2. Okay? If there's anything that's unrecognizable, like this or this, we'll just vote it. Okay? And if it's a 0, we'll take it as either you abstain or no confidence or whatsoever. So meaning that we will void the particular vote itself, and any other thing other than 1 and 2 will be voided. Okay, yeah. Person just reminded me this is not accepted as well. Okay. So just to make things clear. Okay, this is accepted, not this. Okay, so it's 0, 1 and 2. And if the number of void votes or abstain votes is able to actually influence the results, we'll do a re-vote. And the candidate will assume office by simply a simple majority by winning the other candidate. I guess this is clear enough, right? Any clarifications at this point before we give out the voting slips? Okay, before we give out the voting slips, can we do another head count? For those council reps that just joined us earlier, you guys are not included in this particular voting, I'm so sorry. So I think 2 just came, right? 1 from CSE, as well as another from this.
Yeah. Okay.
2 from science.
2 from science as well. Okay. So after the voting for this round, please come down to register, as it just to note down the names. Okay. So can I? The mock voting one too. Don't see the middle first. Okay. Can we proceed a simple head count just to confirm the voting strength? Maybe Wilson, you can go ahead.
1, 2, 3, 4,
6,
7,
8,
9,
10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15,
16, 17, 18, 19, 20,
21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 28, 29,
31,
32, 33, 24, 25, 26,
27,
29, 40, 41, 42, 43, 45, 46, 47.
24. Just now was 48.
Just now was 48.
Because just now is because
No, it's 47. 47. Just now before the Clovis speech was 47. Yeah.
So correct.
Yes.
49.
47.
Okay. So the voting strength is 47. It's an odd number. So 24. Yeah. Okay. 24 to assume office as the president of the NUSSU EXCO, and there wouldn't be a need for a tiebreaker because it's an odd number. So again, I repeat, 0 abstain or no confidence or void or anything. 1 for Ren Kai and 2 for Clovis. Okay, any other numerical figures or alphabets or anything will just be considered as a void vote. Can you guys see the names here? Cannot see.
你要猜 on 的来。
你让我开好吗？ I don't think you should write the light.
Just put those
Okay, are there any more voting slips? Okay, never mind. Wilson is collecting. Thanks. 用 visualizer.
Can you all see?
Yeah, okay. We'll use the visualizer. Okay, I will read out the votes based on the screen, and Wilson will just note it down, okay? Wait, before I begin, are there any more votes that are not collected yet? Okay. One. One. Two. One. 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 Two. 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 0, 2, 2, 0, 1, 对。Okay, this is 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2,
No effects. So what's your effect?
Can we go to here without effect?
Italy, Italy.
So
Yeah, entry time doesn't affect.
Okay, the results are quite clear. So, Ren Kai will be elected as the NUSSU president, and the number of white votes will not affect, because there's a total of 47 votes. Even if we add all of it, it's 23. So, yeah, we are written then.
I tell them you are not.
Thanks for voting for me, and let's go for lunch. Yeah.
Without further ado, any